Welcome back to Inspirational Journeys of the Best Minds, the podcast where we dive into the lives of industry top executives known for their standout leadership. I'm your host, Jackie, and in this episode, we have the Chief Human Resources Officer of the APAC region for Société Générale, Mukta Arya. Not only is she a distinct figure in HR and talent development from over 2 decades in the field, but she is also the author and poet of several books. Mukta's reputation precedes her as someone who has mastered the art of blending innovation and championing employees to drive organizational success. As a testament to her approach in HR, Mukta has been at the forefront of implementing progressive strategies that not only nurture employee engagement, but also cement the foundation for sustainable growth. Welcome, Mukta. Thank you for joining us today. I'd love to start by asking you about your journey. Can you tell us about your childhood and what led you to human resources?
Thank you, Jackie. It's a pleasure to be here. I was born in New Delhi, in India. For me, I grew up in a family. My father was an engineer, my mother is a doctor, and I always wanted to be a doctor, from the time when I was growing up. Um, Biology, science. So I'm also a graduate in life sciences. And I started doing my master's in biotechnology, but I got a bit bored, in the laboratory, looking at petri dishes, growing bacteria. So I decided to move into management. And at that time, MBA was a vogue in India. And I decided to do my MBA. And while I wanted to do marketing, I fell in love with human resource topics, which was part of our first year. And in the second year, I decided to be in human resources. I did a specialization. At that time, it was called personal management and industrial relations, now what you call HR management. And here I am after 26 plus years in HR. But growing up, it was a normal childhood where my parents actually gave us the liberty to explore a lot of outdoors and actually allowed me to do what I wanted to do. So it was actually a very normal childhood in India, playing outside in the gardens, climbing trees, following my sister, learning to ride bicycles, and really just studying in school. So yeah, quite fun.
Wow, that's a pretty big jump from biology to human resources.
Yeah, it is, and I call it my accidental career because, as I said, I wanted to be a doctor to follow the footsteps of my mother. But just it happened that after my high school, which is 12th standard, I did not get admission directly. I missed by 2 marks. It really broke me at that point of time. And that's why I did life sciences, because for me it was very near what I wanted to do as a doctor. And I tried again and again. Somehow it did happen. Maybe it's destiny. And really, I mean, the way it changed, the career changed was quite interesting for me because I really enjoyed the journey, and I'm still not bored after 26 plus years. So yeah.
But have you always been a people's person?
Not exactly. When I was growing up, I was quite a shy person, in the sense that I had limited number of friends. I did not have a large circle of friends. I was into books, so I was reading a lot, fictions, magazines, everything I could read. I was reading my mother's magazines, my father's books, everything. And I was not shy in the sense that I would like to take part in activities like, in schools you have poem recitals, reading news in the assembly. I would like to do that, but really quite shy. And when I became a little bit extrovertish, I would say, when I was in university. And then I got the freedom because we could attend classes, but could also sit outside, go to restaurants. So I think there I became a little bit more extrovertish. But it only, I think, happened after my MBA, where I realized that I love the company of people and talking to them. But it was not in the beginning. Nobody would have guessed that I would turn out to be like this.
So, how would you say your childhood in India has molded you to be where you are now? And like, what brought you to Hong Kong? And have you been to other places before?
Hmm. Hong Kong is my first overseas assignment at the age of 36. So when I was growing up in India, my father and mother, they were in government service. So that means we moved around a lot, from New Delhi to Calcutta to Mumbai. And what it helped to do was to actually make me and my siblings much more adaptable to changes. And I think that has really helped me to really understand changes, accept them, and actually thrive in them. So I would say that I love changes. So for me, when I joined Société Générale in India, it was in 2006. And after 4 years, when my regional manager asked me if I would like to move to Hong Kong, I was not very sure at that time because life was good. I was enjoying my life in Mumbai, but then I thought, why not? Maybe it will help me to expand my horizons. So I moved here in 2010, and frankly, it was a great experience. It was a little bit difficult in the beginning in terms of it was a cultural difference, and also working in the regional role with different cultures across APAC. It took some time for me to understand people and people to understand me. Personally, life wise, I think it was amazing. Hong Kong is a great place, and exploring the cultural part, but also the hiking, but also the bars and the restaurant. I think it was very exciting. Yeah.
What would you say were some of your challenges that you overcame earlier in your career, or maybe even recently?
Career-wise, for me, I've been in HR throughout, but it has been in different industries. I did move from uh, manufacturing, conglomerate to financial services, to advertising, and then back and to banking, which Societe Generale is, and this is my longest stint, which is 18 plus years. Um, the career challenges, they are something which are not that big. The one thing is to really understand the business. So when I change industries, I had to learn about the business, but it was interesting and exciting. The second was really the culture, because the culture is really different in different organizations. Even though I was in India and I'm an Indian, but three different organizations, completely different culture. The way you write your emails, the way you talk to people, or for example, I make my presentations, completely different from Ogilvy and Mather, which was the advertising company, compared to when I was in SR, my first company, or Tata TD Waterhouse, which was a joint venture, or Societe Generale, which is a bank. So in India, when I joined it, I just found that I had to shift the way I write, the way I talk to people, the way conduct training. It was quite different. I'm not sure there were big challenges because I thought they were all part of learning. And the learning was tremendous in every organization. I think maybe one of the things that has helped me is that everywhere I worked, normally you're thrown into hot water. you know and I think that's the best way to learn new things. uh, it teaches you how to adapt. And I think my what I spoke about, my earlier journey from in childhood, moving from one place to another, adaptation, learning languages. In India, there are different languages in different parts of the world, and I think it did help me to learn more. Yeah, I think learning about challenges, learning about when you have situations where there are no precedents, how do you actually handle them? It happened over a period of time with the experience. So I failed sometimes, but then I got up and then went ahead. It has been exciting, yeah.
What would you say are some of the differences in the leadership style within the different industries that you were working in?
I would not say that they change because of industries. I would say that it's more personal styles. So, in the same industry, you could have different styles, and then across another industry, you could see similar ones. So there are people who are highly engaging leaders. There are people who are just managers. They are managing on delivery, so they are more task oriented. There are some who are situational leaders, so they change according to the style which is there. A lot of them are, I see, a combination of compassionate plus result orientation. Yeah, I think it has been different, but I would not say that a particular industry has a particular type.
So, what are the different challenges that you face while being in different countries and moving around, working with other people?
For me, I've worked in Asia in now three different countries. So in India and in Hong Kong and Singapore, and then I came back to Hong Kong. However, because our company is pan Asia, so there are different markets, 11 different markets, and employees in many locations. For me, what was interesting was to really overcome the stereotype, that, for example, when I was growing up, you would always say, okay, Japan is like this, China is like this. So really making my own impression based on my experiences with the people that I'm dealing with. And sometimes, it's the accent, but it's also what people mean when they say certain things. Do you have to take it literally, or are there any underlying, assumptions which are there? It took some time because it's not easy, when you're used to one style. I also learned how to pace myself while talking because in India, sometimes, speak very fast, and then people will say, okay, but can you please repeat it? And all. So for me, I think that was a learning experience, that what I think is the best may not be the best for everybody else. So, how do you understand your audience? How do you really customize and then talk about things? I think it was a big thing. And then the other thing is, how people really work, the way of working, the cultural nuances, how is society, for example, looking at, I don't know, gender equality, the cultural differences, and how it plays out at work. So that took some time because it's not easy, and we have offices in Japan, Korea, China, Taiwan, Singapore, Australia, India. So it was a learning experience, and it, again, we can't read about it and then know everything. It is really experiencing it. It's really working with people, along with them, and having that bonds when you're visiting them, and the bonds are quite important to understand. So for me, I think that was a big challenge when I took the regional position and moved to Hong Kong from India. But after many years now, I feel that it has been the most enlightening part of my entire journey, because if you love the culture of a place, you understand better. And for me, that's what is exciting, the food, language. Of course, I'm not very good at languages, but the way people speak, there's a tone in which people speak. The clothes people wear, the traditional clothes. I mean, that's something which is quite exciting for me, and I like to dress up whenever I go to a new country. I like to dress up in the traditional dresses because it gives you that feeling of culture. And for me, I think all this also helps me not only in my personal life in dealing with people, but also professionally. So yeah, I think that was the biggest challenge that I had.
So, what were some of the leadership lessons that you've learned along the way, or if there has been any influential people that have made an impact on you?
Hmm. On the influential people, I would say it's my mother. So my mother is was a doctor. She is now retired, but the way she was handling us three kids while going to the clinic. Uh, and basically, she used to cook. I mean, she still cooks very good food. So I was like, my God, how can you do? When I was growing up and I started working, I was like, how can you handle work life, with kids, and still able to manage to cook such like wonderful, tasty food? And I was like, this is like being a superwoman, and I would like to be like that. I mean, I don't think I have I have reached that stage of juggling, all these things together. But for me, I think my mother has been my massive positive influence on me. And similar is my sister, who is also a doctor, and she does, I don't know how she has so much energy to handle everything, and still be positive, about life. I think these are quite near to me, so I still can feel the influence, and it keeps me going. Yeah.
So, what other advice would you have for aspiring leaders or people starting out in their career, whether it's related to human resources or just in general?
Um, One of the things that I would tell people is that be yourself, because really, I think being genuine is the way you can really progress. because if we are trying to be somebody else, it's a lot of stress, and I really don't think it's worth it. So being genuine about yourself, what you want, and this leads to self awareness, knowing what you want, why you want it, and what you are willing to do in terms of your to achieve it. So that means values become very important. Are there certain values which are so dear to you that you will not compromise on it, whatever whatever the temptation may be? So for me, I think this is really important, the self awareness part, and it comes with time. But you can also, now there are so many tools available to figure that out. And if you can figure that out, then your journey becomes easy, because when people are working, there's comparison. You compare with your peer about, oh, but they have done much better than us, or I should earn more, or my title is not good enough. And I feel that this really makes a person miserable, because for me, I would think that your best comparison is yourself, whether you are better than yourself from yesterday to today, instead of comparing what other people are doing, because their circumstances are different. And sometimes you catch up. Maybe, when you're starting in your career, you are focusing on building foundation, which I think is very important. And it may mean that your progress in tangible terms, in money, in titles, and all may be slow, but you will cover that up in the next 5 to 10 years. And then when you look back, you will thank yourself that, oh, thankfully I invested in myself to make my base stronger. And now when you are at a height, you are not shallow. You are somebody who has deep knowledge, or you have expertise which is really meaningful. So for me, I think this is important, and I see a lot of people who are starting their career getting into the trap of this and comparison. Yes, this comparison, which is frankly quite detrimental. But again, I'm not saying that. We all learn from experience, so sometimes till you have experienced it you would learn. But if you can follow this advice, I think it will help in the longer run. The other thing will be that when you're treating people, or when you're working with people, or in your personal life, I think kindness is very important, because life is too short. Why do we have to be, I don't know, angry, nasty, or basically sweating the small stuff at your workplace? I think it's so important to be compassionate, caring, and kind, and you will feel better yourself. And I think myself, as a person who is working in a corporate world, I feel that if everybody had this, life will be much better. I mean, unfortunately, it's not the same. There are people who take things very personally, or maybe little bit of angst is there. People sometimes they are nasty, but I think it hurts themselves more than anybody else. So yeah.
So, last question. If you win the lottery and money is not a factor, what would you do with your time?
For me, I would love to coach people, whether it's executive coaching, whether it's life coaching, career coaching, because I do think that once I have accumulated some experience from my corporate life, and I would like to share it with others or give it back. I still do it with people, when they write to me on LinkedIn sometimes for advice. I wish I could help everyone, but it's a little bit impossible. But if I have time, I would definitely want to do that. I would also like to do things related to handicrafts, because I love making things. Not for the cooking part, but the handicrafts kind of thing. And I do feel that that gives me a lot of pleasure. And if I can use this to help, I don't know, charity, etc., I would really love to do it. And
That's amazing.
yeah, but that's not all. I may also want to, of course, spend on. I do like few material things. I would like to travel to many places, and maybe mostly to the cultural places. I don't like beaches that much, but maybe historical significance. That's what I would love to do.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, yes, yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Jackie. It was a pleasure.